Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Brian from Those Fake Nerds and Wicked Everything, and I'm joined by Timur. And here we are, ready to talk a little bit about The Walking Dead. I know it's not everyone's favorite subject these days, but both of us are very big fans of the comic. I'm a teasingly big fan of the show, and we had some pretty crazy news. Timur, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Andrew Lincoln has announced that he's not going to return to The Walking Dead after this ninth season, after the mid-season finale.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they offered him a ton of money, presumably. I mean, but he's not going to do it. He wants to move on.
Yeah, this is really, I guess, borderline upsetting if you're a fan of the show. If you're not a fan of the show, you're probably like, this is hilarious. This is serves them right for all the things they've done to change up the story. Because I don't think it's a particularly controversial
on that page.
statement saying that the show has not lived up to the source material. But,
No, not at all. The comic is like 1,000 times better, but
I do think one of the things that it does have is it has a lot of talented actors in their roles, and for the role Andrew Lincoln was playing, I think he was very good as Rick Grimes, as this version of Rick Grimes for the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, I think, see, I never really liked him as Rick Grimes, even as the show started, but I do think that he's a very good actor. That you can tell that he's like bringing his all to this character. But a lot of, I mean, it's probably, the writing is clearly at fault.
Right.
But there's a lot of like character intentions that to me are just like so, I guess, comic booky or like kind of nonsensical if you're going for something very reality based or like, you know, the character himself is supposed to be more based in reality. And I think that's what Andrew Lincoln is doing with the character. But unfortunately, sometimes it just seems like real cheesy, or I don't know.
Right. No, I definitely see what you're saying there. I think it is a comic book, so it definitely has its ridiculous moments. I think the thing they're gonna miss more than anything is how much Andrew Lincoln cared about playing Rick Grimes. There's some behind the scenes, and maybe we can cut this in if we can find it, where he's like punching himself in the face to amp himself up for scenes, and he's a crazy person essentially. Yeah, he's an actor.
It's like Jack Nicholson Shining.
Right.
There's behind the scenes footage of him just jumping up and down and getting ready to chase her around and stuff. Yeah.
So ridiculous. But I think and we're full spoilers all the way up to where we are right now in the show. They made a fairly controversial decision at the mid-season last year, killing off Carl Grimes, which I thought was a mistake. Timur, I know you haven't watched the show in a little bit, but what did you think when you heard they killed Carl Grimes off?
I mean, part of me is I don't really care because I don't know. It's just so far from the comics, although they will weirdly take a lot of things from the comics. But I mean, it is surprising because I think everyone realizes Carl in the comics especially is the future of the series, and I think at least in the comics Rick is going to keep living for quite a while. But in the very first hardcover of The Walking Dead, Kirkman says that he wants this to be the longest zombie series of all time, and it might be already,
yeah,
but
it definitely is.
He wants it to. I mean, it's been going 14 years, at least the comic, but I think he wants it to keep going to the point where it's 30, 40 years, and to me, that's what Carl was going to be.
The future main character.
The character who's yeah, exactly, and even the CEO of AMC has said he wants the show to actually go that long too. He sees it going 30, 40, 50 years, and sort of.
Well, they could have fooled me with their decisions.
Yeah, they kill off random people at random times, I've noticed.
Yeah, I noticed they kind of they'll divert for an entire half season from the comic books, and then they're oh shit, we need to get this back on track. What's an iconic scene from the comics? All right, let's stick it right here, and then all the comic book fans will be oh, I already recognize that. And then all the people who just watched the show are okay, this is okay. That happened.
I mean, you've watched the show more than me, and do you think that all of the best parts of the show are like taken from the comic, or does it stand? Are there any things that stand out that are wholly unique to the show?
So, I think in season 2, there's a scene in the episode, I believe it's called Nebraska, where Herschel, after Beth tries to commit suicide, goes to a bar to drink, and Daryl and Rick need to like bring him back, and then they run into people from that other group that they have like the hostage guy from, and they're kind of like having this like really tense conversation, like where they're like feeling each other out, what's gonna happen, and there's a lot of tension. I remember thinking that was like a really amazing scene. It ends up with Rick just like killing both of them, and it's like the first time you kind of see like Rick like straight up just murder somebody in the show, because you don't get the Shane death until the end of season 2.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I thought that was a really amazing scene. It probably speaks to the fact that it go back like fucking 6 seasons at this point for me to be like, yes, 6 years ago. There was a really great.
I mean, I could rag on the show endlessly, but I guess the big question, after this news is what's gonna happen next, and who's going to take Rick's place as sort of the main character, or the
and it's complicated even more by the actress who plays Maggie. She has
Lauren
Cohen. She has signed a deal for a pilot for another network. So depending on whether that gets picked up, is she going to even stay on the show? Is she going to do like a reduced role on the show? She's a really important character, and it's kind of like ironic because she wanted to get like paid the same as like Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus because they were making the most of the cast, and AMC seemingly wasn't willing to play ball, which is why she made the move to sign on for like a show where she's the lead,
that makes sense.
And now they can't keep Andrew Lincoln, so they screwed it up. Lauren Cohen wanted to be there, and they were like, whatever. And then they want Andrew Lincoln to be here, and he's like, no thanks.
Yeah, I mean, even in the comics, this isn't a huge spoiler, but Maggie she plays a huge role in leading another sort of faction and taking on the same duties as Rick, but in another sort of area. And I think it could have worked with Lauren Cohen, having her sort of take Rick's place, because she's also one of the, fairly, she's on like the very first season, is she? She
second.
Comes during, second, but she is like one of the
little
OG
episode 7
crew members
of like 100-something episodes. She shows up.
Yeah. So, but other than her, who else? We have Daryl from the original crew.
He might be the last original cast member left.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I can't.
Oh, and what's her name? The older woman.
Carol.
Carol,
of course. Just make Carol the main character. Fuck it. Carol's the coolest character.
That's true, actually.
I don't know if you kept up, but they made Carol like pretty badass in the show. Except they do this really dumb thing.
The last I saw of her.
No, keep going. The last you saw of her, what?
Oh, last I saw of her, they were living in the town, and things were obviously shifting, but she was like playing nice, but being like very smart, Yeah, she's great, and she's really great actress. How she can play that like really sweet character, and then she like switches it, and she's like stabbing people in the face in the next scene, which is fun. She's kind of like a super badass, but then they do this dumb thing in the show where they're like, okay, everybody is doing good. They're fine in their roles, but let's make them feel conflicted about killing people just for like 5 episodes. They're like, every character has had this moment in the show. Now I get it. Just randomly, like
a podcast I listen to will refer to it as their kill switches on or off. It's like whatever the writers need. They just like, okay, Carol's kill switch is back on, Michonne's kill switch off.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even with the Rick, I feel like it's like you never know. It's episode by episode, but sometimes he's like ruthless. Sometimes he's just like really introverted and like
Dude, he did something really fucked up in the penultimate episode of this last season. He like straight like
oh really?
he really like betrayed people super hard. Like they're a bunch of like Negan's men, but they were kind of like captured, but then they escaped, and then Rick and Morgan went to hunt them down, and they found them, and they got the jump on Rick and Morgan, so they're tied up, and then a swarm of zombies come, and like Rick the whole time is like, listen, if you just let us free, you can like, you don't have to be with Negan, you can just come live with us, which is kind of like comic Rick, I feel like, you know.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
So the zombies come and they let them free, and they're fighting the zombies off, and then Rick just fucking starts killing all of those guys. And I was like, is Rick the bad guy now?
I mean,
there's some moments in the All Out War saga where it's like, is Rick a good guy? I don't know.
Yeah, even you talking about even in the comic or just mostly in the show?
I say the comic less so. I say the comic, he does some bad stuff, but it's always like justifiable. You can see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
But
well, the thing with the comic with All Out War is by the end, it's really brilliant, but he right at the end when he like is basically fighting Negan one-on-one, he has all this dialogue of just like, you're fucking everything up. Yeah. We're like trying to rebuild society, and you're like the antagonist. Yeah. And Negan doesn't see himself that way, and he's just like, holy shit, you're right. Yeah. And then Rick takes him down, and I feel like they're going to do that in the show, but I think it could be really interesting if they basically switch Rick and Negan's roles in the show going forward in this next half season, and make Rick really antagonistic in a way where like the audience is like, okay, this is a little too far.
Right.
I mean, Negan is obviously the antagonist. They can't like change that at this point, but if you kind of have them both on the same level of like baddie, then it would be really easy for them to just like have that final fight between them. You can win, but you're not sure if it's like a good thing or bad thing. And he, you know.
Right.
Anyway, what I'm getting at is like, it could be really interesting if they say goodbye to Rick, have Negan become the new main character, which, I mean, I think that would actually sell really well.
Yeah, Negan's a great character. Unfortunately, they already ended the last season with the scene where Rick slits Negan's throat and then saves him.
Okay.
So we're past the point of no return on
Great.
All Out War.
Oh, so Negan's already a prisoner in the
yeah.
show.
So
oh wow,
it ended with that scene, and then the kind of like pan, and they see the giant horde, which presumably is the Whispers horde.
Right.
And that's kind of like the end of the season. So Negan will probably start off as a prisoner, and then the Whispers war will happen. And how far are you in the comics, by the way? I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, I mean, I read, the last I read was the last hardcover that came out, which I feel like was like half a year or so ago. I'm trying to remember how it ended, but yeah, I'm not completely caught up with like issue per issue.
Right.
So
I guess did the Whisper War saga play out where you are?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if it ended or how it ended, but I mean, I remember Negan killing the leader of that,
Alpha, yeah.
And then trying to come back to Rick, and then there's some war. Yeah, so yeah, spoilers would be
spoilers of comics too.
For sure.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of characters die at the beginning of the Whisper War. Do you think we could possibly see Rick go in that spot? That'd be a big statement.
Climactic enough. Yeah, it would be huge, but I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't feel. I don't know. It wouldn't feel right for Andrew Lincoln to like exit on that kind of note.
Yeah, because I think they kill probably most prominently. Spoilers for the comics, guys. So here we go. They kill probably most prominently Ezekiel in that spot.
Right. Right.
But if Rick's leaving the show, I don't think the show wants to kill Ezekiel. You know? You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
So it could be, but like you said, it's not climactic. There is a character death at the end of the Whisper War that I don't want to say in case you haven't read it yet, but I wonder if Rick could go in that spot. But a lot of the talk online is they're going to give Norman Reedus $20 million to lead the show.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think he can fill Rick's shoes, even though I do think he's a great actor and a great character in a lot of ways. But I think you mentioned this when we were texting before, but they've kind of digged themselves a hole because he doesn't have any dialogue. His character has become very introverted, and he doesn't have any real. Just kind of emotional and right. Which is cool, but
okay.
So I don't think he could carry the show, at least not as a main character. But
no, they have to if they want to do that, they got to bring the season back and just have him be very talkative.
Right,
turn over a whole new leaf. Yeah, I guess they do the time jump in the comics, so maybe do the time jump, and all of a sudden Daryl's normal, like a regular human.
Yeah, something happened. He fell in love, and now all of a sudden he's just But yeah, so I mean, who else? Denai Guerrera.
She's 100% going to leave the show.
She's
gonna be in
Black
movies
Panther,
now. I love her. Obviously, she's really great as Michonne, but she's got options now.
Definitely, and I mean, to me, it's all of these characters are leaving. A lot of things are just falling apart in a way. I do not envy them, the writers, but I mean, it'll definitely be interesting, to see how they change it, because at this point they can't really go by the comic with all these actors and characters.
No, they're going to be all off book now.
Yeah.
Their two main characters are not going to be on the show anymore, and then their main character is going to be a non-comic book character. So that's good.
And I mean, I think ideally, to me, this is the most ideal thing: is end the show with Rick's death. It could be half season if you want, or just have things pan out after that, and then start a new show. Kind of start fresh a bit with Negan. That way, that team who's behind that main show can still work on that. Because my main worry is just that if they got rid of the show, everyone from that show is just going to be pushed on to Fear the Walking Dead, and it's going to ruin it completely.
Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan, he was just the first one. Now it's just going to be everyone is just.
There's 100%. They were we're going to put you on Fear the Walking Dead if you want. And he's I don't really want to. Okay, then you're going to die. And he's okay, I guess I'll go on Fear the Walking Dead.
You think so?
I mean...
Because I actually haven't seen him on Fear the Walking Dead yet, so I don't know
bet he's good.
How well he fits in. Yeah.
It's weird to have him on there.
Yeah.
I don't even remember if he leaves The Walking Dead at the end of last season. Oh, I feel he must have walk away. I just can't remember.
Just walked somewhere.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the worst Walking Dead episode by far to me is the one where they go into his backstory and he's with that white guy who somehow is really good at martial arts.
Whatever he calls him.
Yeah, the goat guy. Oh my god, the episode was painful.
It's an hour and a half long too.
It's
a 2 hour episode.
Why? I don't. Oh my god.
Well, they could have just lost it, where okay, we have Morgan doing stuff. We do a zoom in, and then we put those scenes throughout the first half of the season. Right. And it's oh, that's cool. They're doing something different, giving us Morgan's backstory slowly. But no, they're let's just forget Glenn going under the dumpster. He's dead. Obviously,
oh, that was a great plot twist.
Why would he be alive? It doesn't even make sense. It's fine. And it's forget about that. We're just going to give you an hour and a half of Morgan. It was a bad episode. Although it does have like the
Oh,
running
cool.
joke of like who's gonna get the 2 hour episode of flashbacks next. It's like
Right.
just like any irrelevant
Uh,
character. Just I can't wait to have
Yeah.
the 2 hour flashback episode of him.
Uh,
Oh man.
but yeah, so for you, what's the ideal move for them?
The at this point, they just make Negan the main character. He's
Right.
like they spent the last 2 seasons entirely building Negan up, so at this point he probably like has the most screen time and like he's very charismatic, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and he's really good as Negan. And I think people can look past the bashing in Abraham and Glenn's heads. Everyone does some fucked up shit. He's just gotta like redeem himself in the Whisper War. I think it's
Sure.
near the beginning where there's the comic part where Rick and Negan like have to help each other like survive. Like maybe that can
Right.
be the episode where Rick dies. But Negan like
Yeah,
redeems
actually,
himself,
honestly,
like,
that would
trying
be
to save
that would
him.
be a really good.
Mm.
Yeah, that would be a really good passing of the torch in a way. Like they're cut off from everyone in a way,
Mm.
and their Rick gets bit or something, and Negan is literally the only one
Yeah.
left with him. That honestly, if they do that, I would be happy enough with that. Yeah, I mean, what would have been really cool is if they kept Chandler Riggs alive, had him be
Rick.
the Rick character, but had the show be about Negan.
Mm.
That could have been a really cool thing. Have just a
Negan
sort
and
of
his relationship, like Negan's lost his family, including his like. Does he have a daughter in the comics? No, I think.
yeah, isn't that? I think
that
that's
might
what
be
he
the
named the
governor.
bat after, or was
Oh,
it
that's
his
wife.
ex-girlfriend or something?
His wife.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Regardless, he's lost his family and everyone he cares about. Carl would have lost everyone he cares about, so it'd be like a weird father-son dynamic between two
Yeah.
like lost souls.
Yeah, I always kind of shipped that dynamic. Was like when Carl like sneaks off. He's like goes with Negan to the base, and Negan is just like really kind of chill about it, and he's just like, "Wow, kid, you have balls more than like my men." That's like the best part.
He's like, you killed a lot of my men, which is not cool, not fucking cool at all. It's so funny.
Yeah,
Just Negan in the
That's what makes
comics is
his character
just so
so good.
hilarious. Everything he
Yeah,
says is amazing.
so
But yeah, man, I honestly wish that AMC weren't so greedy with the franchise and would just let it die. Like, it could have died like a respectable death, like in season 6. Like obviously everyone wanted the Negan storyline, so I can't blame them. But they fucked the Negan storyline up really bad and dragged it out over 2 seasons. Like, they had like the first season was like Rick just being like Negan's bitch, basically. And then like at the end of it, they're like, we're gonna fight back. And then they had a whole season of All Out War, but it just like dragged on. Where All Out War is like what, 12 issues at most, right? Like
I think so. Yeah, because they have its own hardcover, and it's like smaller than a normal volume. Even
it's
so.
like All Out War Part 1 and 2, which I think each like story arc is 6 comics. So I think
I think so.
I think it's 12. So it's not that long. I mean, The Walking Dead stretched 1.5 comics of Herschel's Farm into a whole season, so they're not like against stretching everything out, but
yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I'm realizing. I think what it comes down to is like not a good show. Now it's probably going to get a lot worse. Unfortunately.
Well, and it's like it sucks because like
losing everyone.
It was a good show, but then all like the good actors like either got killed off or left, and then it became kind of not great. And now that they need it to be better with the actors, they're like, well, we killed everyone off, and now we don't have anyone except for Daryl, who we made not talk for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, like, I'm watching it to the bitter end because I've watched all of it, and I kind of want to see how bad it's gonna get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just because all these characters are dead, it doesn't mean that you guys can't write a good storyline with different characters. But it's like, are they capable of that? Is the real question.
Well, it feels like they write it. Like, I think you mentioned this, like, it's just everything is shock value. So it's like, here, let's hit this beat where, like, this character dies because it'll be surprising and, you know, the audience won't expect it. But they're not thinking, like, okay, thematically, we're developing, like, you know, Rick and his son, and he's, like, passing down the torch to his son, and you have all these different, character dynamics and character intentions, but they're just like, okay, this seems like a good idea. Let's kill this person.
Right. I agree. The Carl death is 100% shock value. There's no narrative reason for Carl to die. Like they say, Scott Gimple says, like, oh, we needed a reason for Rick to not kill Negan at the end. It's like, you didn't. The comic book did it fine. Like, Rick just realizes he can't make Negan a martyr. The war's going to stay forever, you know?
Right.
And the show is just like, well, Carl's going to die. It's fine. It's like... although Chandler Riggs is becoming pretty good in his role, so I feel bad for him. I also feel bad for him because he was going to go to college in the area, and then like he got killed off, and now he's like not going to college because obviously you're a working actor, man. You gotta fucking because honestly, if you're Chandler Riggs and you just like go away for like 4 years now, you probably never get cast in anything again because you're just gonna be totally Carl. True. So he has to like start doing some indie films, like going out of his wheelhouse right now, and just desperately try to like 100%. Stay on the radar, which sucks because I'm sure in his mind he's like, oh, I'm fucking Carl Grimes. I may never have to get another job. I may be on this AMC show for 30 years.
Yeah, 100%. And I think his dad thought that too. His dad has that like page like I'm Carl Grimes' dad or whatever. Like, I've got it made. Yeah. And then he got really pissed off when they killed him off.
Yeah, I would too. Chandler Riggs handled it with a lot of class. He was like very like gracious about his time on the show. Where I think he honestly had every right to be like, man, fuck the writers. Like, I'm Carl Grimes. Yeah. How dare they?
Yeah, if I was him, I would have been like, what the fuck? Yeah. This is my life's work.
I've been on. This is literally all I've known my whole life. I've been on the show since I was 8. So cool. Spent 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, The Walking Dead's not gonna get better. We can only hope that Fear the Walking Dead is good. I haven't watched any of this season. I actually haven't watched any of the seasons since season 1, but I hear it's really good. So hopefully they don't ruin that. At least they don't have like the pre-expectations of comic book readers to deal with in that show.
True, but it's also just it's so much less like comic booky in a really good way, in like a zombie movie type of way.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed they added a cowboy for the new season.
Did they? Oh my god. I'm still on I'm halfway through season 2 and I don't have Hulu, so I can't watch it.
Yeah.
But I do like that one much more than the other one, but anyway.
Yeah. So I guess while we're here, are there any shows that people can watch instead that you've been watching? Obviously, let's leave out like Westworld, Game of Thrones, stuff people are probably checking out anyways, but like
I'm still gonna recommend Westworld. It's so fucking good.
It's so good.
Like the last episode, well, if not this most recent, but the samurai episode is just like it stuck with me all week, and I was just like, that was one of the best TV show episodes of all time.
Yeah, I think.
And, I know that's big, but yeah,
I think
so good.
The thing that makes Westworld so good is they just care so much. Like they cast really like established Japanese actors to play like these, however many episode roles. Like it's pretty great. Like I'm sure, and like that just adds like mass appeal for their show too. Like in Japan, maybe people who wouldn't have watched Westworld are like, "Oh shit, like that's my favorite actor." Like I want to watch the show now, and then hopefully they like it because it is a good show. Yeah, if not Westworld, I've been watching some Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I don't know if you've watched that.
I watched the first season. I don't think I watched the second one, but yeah.
It honestly makes me laugh out loud like every 2 minutes. Like there's just like all these jokes and wordplay, and it looks like it's in its final season on Netflix right now. It only got 6 episodes, and Jenny told me that she read that it was the final season, which is really sad because I used to just crush like that whole show immediately. But now I'm like trying to savor like the 6 episodes that are left.
Yeah, that's honestly pretty surprising because I feel like Tina Fey is having a bit of a moment right now, and I'm sure they would want to like continue with. Cause she write it or she just produces it?
I think she writes some episodes. She's usually it's her show. Yeah. She made it. It's like her follow up to 30 Rock. It's basically the exact same humor as 30 Rock, just in like different characters and settings, and Jenna is in it, but she plays a different character, but still like a lot of the same traits.
Very similar. Yeah.
You've seen the first season. Yeah, she's a lot of the same traits of Jenna Maroney.
Much.
She's hilarious though. But yeah, so that if you want to laugh, and then people love Black Mirror. I have a conflicted relationship with it. Like I love it, but then I like
it hits home.
Well, no, I just get
close
mad
to reality.
A lot of the endings I feel are like really similar to each other, and I was like, this is like we're doing this ending again. Like, it's a lot of times that just it's like it introduced something, and then it ends with like the person's either mind or like themselves being stuck within like the technology and not being able to get out. Like
right,
a few of them, I don't like Nosedive.
And the one the first episode of this newest season,
like that. The Men of
which
is it Men of Fire or Men on Fire?
I don't think I saw that one, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's I mean, it is like the worst hell I can imagine.
Even the election one ends like him trapped in a world of like his own creation that he didn't like mean to. It's like it's always the same ending. Just like pick a piece of technology, have the main character interact with it, have it like do something unexpected, and then have the main character stuck in the choices that they made. You know, playtest also. Playtest ends that way too. So I get like mad, and then I'm just like, I don't want to watch this. And then I was really excited because there's an episode that people love with like robots in the new season. But it's like it's just like a pretty like average to shitty zombie movie, but except instead of zombies, it's like robots. That's all I thought about it.
I gotta check out that one.
But yeah, so I do think Black Mirror is good, but I think people hype up Black Mirror more than it should be.
So yeah, you hear it, check it out, everyone. That's our
It's got a solid 6 out of 10. People are gonna be real mad at me for that. By the way, you're gonna get death threats on Twitter because of this.
I'm really looking forward to Rest Development. I haven't checked it out yet, the new season.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
And obviously Fooly Cooley when that comes out. I'm like super stoked
Yes, I
for
need
that.
to watch it so we can do an update on it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, as far as other stuff, I still watch Survivor, so that's good. And yeah, other than that, just make sure you guys stay tuned for more content. We got streams, podcasts, videos, and we're going to be doing a 24-hour charity stream coming up sometime this summer. We haven't hammered out the details yet, but as soon as we know, you'll know. So thank you guys so much for checking us out. Later.
Bye.